everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you so much for coming and thank you for being so patient. We just had a bit of a glitch this morning, but so we're running slightly late. But thank you so much for coming and for your patience. Okay, so today we're going to talk about heart health. So to my right will be the stations where you will be doing your screening. So there is blood pressure checks, there's diabetes checks, and then there'll be eye checks as well. I'm first going to speak about heart health in general, and then we'll move on to the checks afterwards. Okay, so Proverbs 4 verse 23 says, keep the heart with all diligences because from it flows the issues of life. And Leviticus 17 verse 11 says, the life of the flesh is in the blood. So God gave us these verses so that we can understand how we need to be discerning, use our cognitive abilities to manage our health, because our body is such a wonderful machine that it can heal itself if we do the right things and use the right tools. So what basically is heart health and what is your heart? Your heart basically is an organ that is a muscle that pumps the blood throughout the body, and the blood contains your oxygen, your white blood cells, which is your fighting cells, and then it's got your platelets and all the nutrients that all your cells need in order to function properly. So that is why your blood needs to be pumped throughout the body so that your whole body can get enough oxygen. All your cells need oxygen as well, and so that you can get enough nutrients. But now what you eat is very important, because that will determine if your cells are getting the right amount of nutrients that it needs to function properly. So now what is heart disease? It basically is a condition where the cardiovascular system, your heart system, is in distress or not working properly. And so there are several types, when you go to the doctor, they'll say, oh, you have this and you have that and you have that. And so there's several types of those things, the different types of heart disease that you get. The one is a coronary artery, which is the most common, and this basically is when your heart muscle weakens, when your blood supply reduces, and when your arteries get clogged up. So basically your heart is not functioning properly, it's not beating properly, and the arteries is not allowing the blood to flow properly. So the rest of your blood, your body is not getting the oxygen and the nutrients that it needs to function. So it will lead to all different types of problems depending on how it is affecting your body and how your body works, because each of our bodies work differently. What works for you doesn't necessarily work for me. So that is why we have to listen to what our body says. We can see if something is working or not. If it's not working, then try something else. If it is working, great. Then you get congenital heart defects. That is when you are born with it. So normally it's like a missing valve, or the heart valve doesn't open properly, or just when stuff is basically just wrong with the heart from the time you are born. Then you get arrhythmia, which is just an irregular heartbeat. And then you get dilated cardiomyopathy, which is when the heart chambers don't stretch properly. And then the heart muscle weakens, and then the blood can't be supplied. Then you get myocardial infarction, which basically is a heart attack. And this is due to plaque or plaque buildup in the heart and in the arteries. And then you get heart failure, which means your heart is still working, but it has some problems with it. So it could be any type of problem, from high blood pressure to irregular heartbeats to whatever. So if you have any type of problem with your blood, with your blood pumping through the body, or with the heart itself, or with your arteries that's linked and the veins that's linked to the heart, that will be termed as heart disease. And all the things that impact it or cause it, that also falls under heart disease. So the symptoms of these are chest pains, difficulty breathing, fatigue, tiredness, lightheadedness, swelling, anywhere in the body, which is normally called edema. And those are the general symptoms that show that there's something wrong with your heart. So if you have these symptoms, just monitor yourself and be wary. So now, the signs and symptoms of a heart attack is chest pains, breathlessness, nausea, stomach pain, sweating, arm, jaw, back and leg pain. You get a choking sensation, you get swollen ankles, tiredness and irregular heartbeats. But the most common ones are your left arm paining, you feel out of breath, your chest pains, and you have a lot of sweating. That's what most people get when they have a heart attack. So if you have any of these symptoms, but normally it comes like a day or two before you start getting the pains. It can either intensify or it can just come all at once. But there will be signs along the way to show you. So now, cause of risk factors are damage to the whole heart or parts of the heart. You have problems with your blood vessels. You have a low supply of oxygen. So if your lungs is not even working properly, that also produces less oxygen for the heart to then pump throughout the blood body. And then problems with your actual heartbeat. So lifestyle factors that cause heart issues are high blood pressure, smoking, alcoholism or overindulging with alcohol, obesity, being overweight, diabetes, your general diet, a family history of heart disease, your age, inactivity, so you're not exercising or anything like that, sleep apnea, which is when you struggle to breathe at night while you're sleeping, and then when your heart has a leaky valve. So those basically are how the doctors identify what your heart issues are. Those are the symptoms that you normally get and the reasons why you normally get it. But now I want to talk about the seriousness of the actual workings of the heart and how it impacts our lives and how what we do impacts that. So everybody has heard that cholesterol is the main cause of heart disease, but actually it is not. And I'm going to explain why cholesterol is not really the main cause of heart disease. So cholesterol is made in your liver from fat. 80% of it is made from the glucose, 20% is made from actual fat in your body. So you can already see fat is not actually the problem when it comes to cholesterol. And your liver only makes as much cholesterol as your body needs. So if you are having heart problems, your liver will make more cholesterol because there's a problem. Because cholesterol is actually an anti-inflammatory response. So if there's a problem in the area, your body fixes things and sends things to fix the problem in the area. And that's what cholesterol is. It goes to fix the problems in the area. So normally when they do blood tests or whatever and they find high levels of cholesterol, that is because there is a problem with your heart or your valves or your veins or whatever, or arteries, but the cholesterol has come to the area to help fix the problem. So automatically there will must now be a lot of cholesterol because it's trying to fix the problem. But it actually is very good for your body. And I'm going to explain why later. Sorry. So we need to first understand what are the actual bad things for us. And a high carbohydrate diet is actually not good, and most of us live off this. And so when we hear carbohydrates, we just think of potatoes and stuff like that. But potatoes is actually at the end of the list. So it is your bread, it is your cereals, it is your cakes, it is your pizzas, your pastas, basically anything that's made with flour Because flour that they use to make all these things is genetically modified. And that genetically modified flour causes it to have a high glycemic index in your body. That means that it burns glucose very fast, and that's what causes diabetes also. So because your blood pressure is spiking all the time because you're eating, because we all live with bread and cereal, mostly, and pasta and rice. So you're eating that all the time, whole day, so constantly you're getting this high spike, because it's actually higher than your sweets and those things that you would think would cause a high spike. So those high spikes are there constantly, which then puts stress on your pancreas to produce the thing that lowers it down. So your pancreas produces two things. It produces your glucose, and it produces your glucagon, which basically lowers. So when you have a high spike in glucose from the cereals, because when carbohydrates are broken down, they are broken down into glucose. Glucose is the energy. So when glucose is produced, then it's too high. So then your pancreas now makes glucagon, which then lowers it so that it can be normal, because your body tries to heal itself. So now if you're eating this high spiked foods all the time, it's constantly up and down, up and down, up and down. So that makes your pancreas get tired. And obviously when your pancreas is getting tired, you're going to become insulin resistant, because that whole process is how insulin is made and how insulin is regulated. So that has a knock-on effect on your heart. Because remember before I mentioned one of the reasons why you get heart disease is because of diabetes. So now you're eating this high carbohydrate diet. So you have all these sugar spikes in your body all the time. And that is making your heart also pump over time as well, which also is tiring it out at the same time. So potatoes is towards the end. It doesn't have as high glycemic index, so it releases energy a lot slower than your breads and your cereals and stuff like that. And then you get your sugars, so they're more or less on the same page. So now you get two types of cholesterol in your body. You get the HDL, which is the high density lipoprotein, which is known as the good fat. And then you get the LDL, which is the low density lipoprotein, which is known as the bad fat. But actually, they're both necessary and good for your body. So the HDL, the high lipoprotein, it basically carries the excess cholesterol that's in your body back to your liver, and it stores it there. So now your liver must now makes the cholesterol, and it goes and it fixes where it needs to fix, and then whatever's left, it goes back. And so that is constantly flowing in the middle of your arteries, basically. And your low density lipoproteins, they repair and rebuild the arteries and the heart vessels and whatever has to do with your heart, they rebuild and repair. So they're always going to be on the sides by the walls, trying to fix, trying to do the right thing. So it's actually not a bad thing, but you find a lot of them there all the time because we are constantly damaging due to all kinds of things, not just what we eat, but environmental stresses and stuff like that. So the LDL also sends the cholesterol to your brain. Now your brain is the biggest fat organ, and your brain needs carbohydrates to work, to function. That's what it feeds on. So your LDL takes your carbohydrates to your brain so that your brain can get brain food. So when you are on a diet where you cut out all carbs, the first thing you will notice is your head feels like you can't focus, you sort of space out, you can't think properly, you just feel like, oh blah, because your brain is not getting the necessary food that it needs to function properly. So carbohydrates is very important for your body because it makes your cholesterol and it feeds your brain. But it's the right type of carbohydrates that you need to be eating, and you need to lessen the bad ones, which is difficult because that's all we can afford. But instead of maybe eating so much bread or whatever, let's try to eat things like more green vegetables, which is much healthier for us. And then we can balance out and prevent heart problems. Okay, so basically this is your cell wall, right? This is your artery. It's coming down. So in the middle is flowing your blood. And in your blood it has your oxygen, your nutrients, and the HDL, right? Because the HDL was now carrying the carbohydrates to where it needs to, right? So over time, we breathe in, we live, so we are exposed to environmental factors. These things are whatever's in the air, the chemicals that we use to clean the floors, and all of those things. So those are the environmental toxins that basically make little holes in our arteries. So now the LDL goes and it tries to repair it. So, and other types of environmental issues are stuff like smoking, drinking, all the toxic things. Those are the things that basically make more holes and more holes in our arteries. And your arteries is what carries the oxygenated blood to the rest of the body, and your veins are what carries the deoxygenated blood back to the heart to become oxygenated. So now your body is trying to repair itself. And along with that, it also, there's these protein globules that is in your system. And so these protein globules now also start sitting on the walls of your arteries. And as it's repairing itself, it causes scar tissue. So as you know, when you cut anything or something happens, when it heals, it normally has like a bump or a mark or something, and that's the scar. So the same thing happens inside your arteries. It produces these little scars. And so now just imagine, here's your arteries wall, and now it's getting all these little scars. So now that means that the arteries itself is becoming harder and more narrow and more rigid. So it's not as flexible as it used to be. And so now it can't work so lekker because it's now got all these scars that are forcing it to not bend, all these scars that are making it more narrow, all these scars that are causing obstructions in the pathway of the blood that is flowing through the arteries. And so now your body has these proteins that also need to come through the arteries. And on these proteins now stick onto these little cholesterol globules in the artery walls. And so, like with life and whatever, as the blood moves, these proteins sometimes move. So they're not always stuck onto the little things along the side of the wall. So they move. And because our arteries is now hardening due to however we live and the environmental factors that is now impacting it, and all the scar tissue that is busy building up. So now it starts narrowing because now there's such a lot of scar tissue and such a lot of stuff. So, and more of these little proteins are falling, with the result that it starts to bottleneck, and then some of it gets stuck and they build up, and that then causes like a clog. So that is how you get clogged arteries, and that is what causes either a stroke or a heart attack. So depending on where in your body, if it's near to the heart that this blockage happened, then you would get a heart attack. If it's in your arteries where this happened, it can be anywhere in the body because your arteries go to your whole body to oxygenate. So if it's anywhere in the body that this blockage happens, then you get the stroke. And that's the differences, but it all boils down to the blocking. And the blocking comes from what happens to the walls. And what happens to the walls comes from our lifestyle. What we eat and what we are exposed to. So that basically is how heart disease or heart problems actually happen and start affecting us. So, as you know, as I've explained now, cholesterol is actually a very good thing, and it is needed because it repairs those issues that happen in the heart. So cholesterol is not a bad thing. So when they say that you should cut down on your cholesterol, rather try not to. Rather try to eat more green veggies, more foods that will promote your good cholesterol, which is your avocado, pears, and stuff like that. Try to do that. But if the doctor is telling you to go on a cholesterol lowering medication, try not to, because, like I mentioned before, the HDL takes the cholesterol to the brain to feed the brain. So if you are stopping your cholesterol from producing, that means that your brain is going to be starved. And then that's where Alzheimer's, dementia, those types of things start happening, because you're stopping your body from actually functioning in the proper way that it should. It is up to you, but now that you know, you can make the right decisions, as I mentioned before. God gave you a brain, you can discern and make proper choices based on what you know and what your body is telling you. Okay, so now factors that cause damage in the artery, as I mentioned before, is environmental toxins, and that is your household detergents, everything in the environment, everything you're breathing in basically. That would be, so that is why you should try and stay away from toxic chemicals, because ultimately it's going to affect your heart in the long run. So always think about what you are using and how it can impact your heart, because things might seem like it's fine, but actually it's not. It does do damage, and this is how it actually damages your organs. As I mentioned, cholesterol lowering medication, try not to take it, because cholesterol is a good thing. Alcohol, try to minimize your alcohol or stay away from alcohol. Smoking, a high carbohydrate diet, and lack of nutrients. And so your nutrients is what you get from your food. So the more healthy green vegetables, or any vegetables that you eat, the better. So now salt, the next thing that everybody says is very bad for you. Table salt is very bad for you, because table salt has only 2 minerals in it, and those 2 minerals together are very toxic for you. But the salt that you need to use is actually called Himalayan or Celtic salt. So this is sea salt, seawater. Seawater has 92 of the minerals that our body needs to function. And you can actually, if you need to have a blood transfusion, you can actually use sea salt water to do a blood transfusion, because it has the exact same components that your blood has. So in emergencies, if there isn't blood, you can actually do that safely. But you would obviously want to purify, because there's other toxins in the sea. Okay, so the sea salt has 92 of the minerals that our body needs. So our body is made up of lots of different cells. Now our cell, everything works at a cellular level, then it must now build and becomes an organ, and then the organs work together, and then, that's how your body, that's the building blocks of how your body functions. So the cellular level is where everything basically happens. So your cell, your body is made up of 80% water. So your cells are basically just water. There's basically just water in the cell to make the cell work. So the cell needs water, and it needs nutrients in order to function properly. Now, the nutrients that we get is only from the food that we eat. And our food, and if we don't eat a lot of vegetables, we don't get a lot of nutrients. So already our body is nutrient deficient. And also, because they mass produce food, there's not a lot of nutrients in the soil. So the food that's grown doesn't have much nutrients either. So now you're like kind of stuck. You're in a catch-22. You like stuck between a rock and a hard place. So what do? Now salt, like I mentioned, Himalayan salt, not table salt or Celtic salt, but Celtic salt is a lot more expensive. Celtic salt or Himalayan salt has 84 of the 92 minerals that sea salt has. So that means that it has 84 of the 100 minerals that our cells need to function properly. So when you are feeding your cell the proper food that it needs to work properly, it's going to function properly, which will then cause your organs to function properly. And then that will undo damage that has occurred over time in your body. Because remember, your body can restore itself. Okay? So now, with salt, there's 3 different types of mechanisms. The one is called the sodium-potassium pump. And this basically means that it regulates what is inside of the cell and what is outside of the cell. So sodium needs to be outside of the cell. Potassium needs to be inside the cell. So this pump regulates it. But if we take too much table salt, it forces the sodium into the cell. And that forcing of the sodium into the cell, now the cell becomes full of sodium, and the cell wall becomes full of sodium, now it starts expanding. So whatever needs to go in causes pressure, and that pressure is what causes, is one of the causes of high blood pressure. So that's the one mechanism that table salt causes high blood pressure with. So because remember I said table salt only has 2 minerals inside it, and those 2 together are toxic. Now you then get the other thing that I was discussing, your cell wall, your cell membrane, and how it actually functions. So when you are in a state of dehydration, which most of us are, so coffee, alcohol, stress, environmental factors, all those things cause dehydration. And so our cells now need to protect itself so that it can work properly. So it forms like this little membrane around the cell. And this membrane tries to keep as much water and nutrients in the cell as possible so that the cell can still function as much as it can with the little bit that it has in there. Now when you eat or drink whatever, nutrients, water, all of those things come to the cell, and it needs to get inside the cell so that the cell can work. So because it has this layer around it, it then has to force itself into the cell, and that forcing all the time, over time, also causes high blood pressure. So dehydration is the main cause of high blood pressure as well. So how do you reverse that? Now we get back to the Himalayan salt, because this is cheaper than Celtic salt. It's much more expensive than table salt, but it can save your life. Okay. So in here is 84 of the minerals that you need. Now your cell needs at least 3 different types of magnesium that you find in here. And magnesium is a water-hungry molecule, which means if there's water in the environment, it's going to draw it in. And that's what your cell needs. It needs to draw as much water into your cell as possible to function properly. Okay? So now, the second magnesium is, it unlocks that layer, that membrane that was around the cell to protect it. So now it's unlocking the cell so that the water and the nutrients can get into the cell. So that already alleviates that pressure buildup. And the third magnesium is like the starter. So you turn the key and the engine starts. So that magnesium starts the whole process of the cellular working. And every time that the magnesium crosses over, it generates energy. And the more energy we have, the more our body can do, and the better we feel, and the better our body can function. So the more nutrients and minerals that you get, the more your cell can work properly. The more your cell works properly, the healthier you are. So I've been drinking Himalayan salt with water for almost 3 years now. And I have not been sick. I was in 2 car accidents, I had terrible back pain. I haven't had any pain whatsoever. If I do get sick or I do get hurt, like it's sore for an hour or 2 and then it's fine. I don't have aching bones. I can just get up and move. I have so much energy. I used to drink coffee all the time. Now I don't drink coffee because I don't need it, because I have all this energy, because my cells are getting the nutrients and the water that it needs. Another thing is, when you are drinking water, now you think, okay, your body needs a lot of water. So now you're drinking a lot of water, but you're peeing a lot, which means all the water you're drinking is just going out. So how does your body retain the water? It's not retaining the water because that membrane is around the cell. So without the proper nutrients, the water can't get into the cell. So it just passes out. So that's why you pee all the time. But if you are taking the proper nutrients that you need, your cell, like I explained now, unlocks. And because the magnesium is a water-hungry molecule, it just takes all the water into the cell. Now your cells can actually work properly because it's got the water that it needs to function, and it's got all the nutrients that it needs to function. And now your body's using the water, so you're not peeing. I go to the toilet like maybe twice a day because my body's using all the water that I'm drinking. If I drink cool drink or something, then I go to the toilet. But if I'm just drinking my water with the Himalayan salt, I don't go to the toilet. I have so much energy. I'm like, I feel so healthy. I feel like I'm in my early 20s. I'm so energetic. It's just amazing. But I'm sick today because of mold exposure. And I had a toxic spider bite and a whole lot of things happened. So that caused problems. But I also used herbal remedies to heal that. But the point is that through all of that, my healing process was super quick. Like this past week, I had shingles by my eyes. And shingles is painful, it is draining, it is very bad, and it happens when your body is very stressed and in a state of trauma and whatever. So because I had a toxic spider bite, that led to neuralgia, and then I had this mold experience, and mold really causes a lot of problems for the body. So now my body's just trying to get rid of the mold, so that's why there's a lot of mucus. But I'm fine, I don't feel sick, I just sound a bit sick. But what I'm saying is the healing time was so quick. I mean, within 4 days, the shingles was gone. Because I didn't think I would be able to be here today to do this. But God is amazing because He gives us these herbs and things to help us heal. And so what I'm saying is, apart from this little experience now, I feel amazing. I feel energetic. And the only difference is because I can't afford a lot of healthy food. So the only difference is the salt and the water. Because now I'm getting what my body needs. Even though I can't get it through my food, I'm still getting it into my body. So my cells are working properly. And my auntie, she is also doing this water thing with me. And the two of us were the only people who haven't been sick for the past 3 years. No flu, no nothing. So I'm a testament that it really does work. And so when your cells are working properly, your arteries are getting the nutrients that it needs. So there won't be that blockages, there won't be so much scarring, there won't be all those other problems, and there won't be that major pressure build-up because now your cells are functioning properly. And it's a very simple thing that most people can do, that they don't know that they can do to help themselves. And then the other thing is that salt has calcium and magnesium, and your heart needs calcium to constrict, which is tighten and close, and then it needs magnesium to relax. And that is how the pump works: constricts, relax, constricts, relax. So when it has those two minerals, it functions well. And a lot of our problems come from either the heart is not pumping properly, or there's not enough oxygen or nutrients or whatever, and it mainly all leads to the fact that we're not getting enough nutrients in water to function properly. So a lot of problems can be alleviated if we just do simple things like use Himalayan salt water. And people that I've told about, they started using it and they were like, wow, it really actually does work. So you also now need that constrict and relax, constrict and relax. So the other thing is, when you don't have enough calcium, and calcium, the type of calcium that your body needs is not calcium from milk. It's not calcium in the raw form. Your body needs calcium that it makes itself. And it needs vitamin A and beta carotene and vitamin D to make this type of calcium that your body actually needs. So, for example, if we look at the Scandinavian countries that are their dairy consumption is very high. 80% of their population, the old people, have osteoporosis. Why? Because their bones don't have the proper calcium that it needs. So now, because like your heart and other functions in your body need calcium as well, it takes it from the bones, because your bone is the main thing that has calcium in it, right? So now it leaches the calcium from the bone to use it somewhere else in the body, and that's how your bones weaken, and that's how osteoporosis happens. Because the more dairy you consume, the more it's just going to go out of your body and cause other problems like sinus and all these things. And your body then is in a state of having less and less calcium because it's not getting the proper nutrients that it needs to build the right type of calcium. So now when your body gets the right type of calcium through your vitamin A and your beta carotene, which mainly is found in carrots, green leafy vegetables, and obviously we rely on salt, now your body can produce the proper calcium. Now it can restrict and relax, constrict and relax. But now just think of, say you're watering the garden and you tramp on the hose. That must now makes the water, puts pressure on the water, so the water spurts out, right? So the same thing is happening in your body. If you don't have enough magnesium, then your body will constrict and it won't relax. So if it's constricting all the time, or more than it's relaxing, it does the same pressure that if you tramp on the water pipe, right? So that build-up of that pressure also causes high blood pressure. So that's why, once again, our nutrients that we take is very important, because we need those nutrients to perform the different functions for our heart to work properly. And if our heart doesn't work properly, then everything else is because your heart is what keeps you alive, basically. And so, high blood pressure basically comes from malnutrition because you're not eating the proper nutrients that you need, and mineral deficiency because you're not getting the proper minerals that you need. And Himalayan salt has all the most of the nutrients and minerals that your body needs. So if you just try and incorporate this into your everyday life, you will see the difference. Because we don't have money to buy healthy food. I understand that we mainly just live off cereals and things that is made from flour, but it's not healthy for us because it will lead to diabetes and heart problems. And the one will lead to the other. Diabetes will lead to heart problems can lead to diabetes as well. So our diets are very important. So where we can, we need to try to do the right thing, or at least as much as possible. Now our calf muscles. Our calf muscles is known as the second heart because the arteries, the heart pumps, and the arteries then take the oxygenated blood throughout the body. Now the veins bring the blood back to the heart to become oxygenated. But your calf muscles is what pumps the veins, because the veins don't have the mechanism that the arteries do. So the arteries have that constrict and relax mechanism, but the veins don't have that. So it needs something to make it constrict and relax, and your calf muscle is that something. So it is important to do leg exercises, especially just jumping up and down, because jumping up and down, you are defying gravity, which opens up your lymphatic system when you jump up, and when you jump down, when you go down, it closes it. So that already acts as a pump. Your lymphatic system also drains out all the toxins. So then it will drain more toxins out of your body. So now you're killing two birds with one stone. You're jumping up and down, you're getting your lymphatic system going, and you are strengthening your heart muscle. And you are pushing the oxygenated blood back, the deoxygenated blood back to the heart so that it can be oxygenated and move around the heart. So even just walking every day for at least 30 minutes, start small, but try and jump up and down. It really, really does help a lot. If you have a trampoline, even better, but you know, if you don't, even like on steps, you know that thing that you do on steps, do that. Anything that goes that will cause you to go up and down, that will strengthen your calf muscles, that will help with heart health and with your lymphatic system a lot. And so, what thins the blood? Because most problems come from when the blood is too thick or the arteries are a problem. So what thins the blood is at least 8 glasses of water, but it depends on you because not everybody's the same. So my body might only be able to handle 6 glasses of water. Your body might be able to handle 10 glasses of water. So it depends, but 8 is the average that you need every day. Okay? And so with your water, you need to take your salt. Because the salt dissolves in the water and then it goes into the bloodstream and it goes where it needs to go. Because the bloodstream will then either take it to all the cells or it will just automatically go to the cells. It depends. Cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper is very good for blood issues. It's an adaptogen, which means if your blood is too thick, it thins it. If your blood is too thin, it thickens it. It also stimulates circulation. So people with diabetic feet and stuff like that, cayenne pepper is a good thing. If you have diabetic feet, you take some oil and you mix the cayenne pepper in the oil and you rub it on the feet so that it will get your feet, it will draw the blood to the feet so that your feet can start getting warm before you maybe soak it in warm water, because you can't put diabetic feet straight into hot water because it will damage the nerves. So these are little tricks that you can use. Last year, December, I pulled open the the fridge, and it ripped my toenail almost completely off. And there was blood everywhere, and it was so painful, and I threw a little cayenne pepper on, and the blood stopped immediately. And the pain stopped immediately. And I never had pain after that again. And with my shingles, I think what also helped with me not having so much pain was I also made a cayenne pepper mixture. Now for shingles, they say cayenne pepper is also an anti-inflammatory. So for shingles, they say capsicum, which is the active ingredient in cayenne pepper. That really helps with the inflammation and the nerve pain. And so I put that on like immediately when I recognized this is shingles, even before I went to go and find out, you know, is it really shingles? And I think that's what stopped the pain. So I didn't have pain. I had like just it was like a burning, stinging pressure. That's all that it was. There was no pain. But it was there and it spread. But it helped with the pain. So kind of also focuses on the nerves and it does help with pain as well. So what I also do is I drink some cayenne pepper and water first thing in the morning so that it regulates your blood circulation. So if you have heart problems, I would advise to take as much cayenne pepper throughout the day because this will help repair and regulate your thickness and thinness depending on what your problem is of your blood. Cayenne pepper also stimulates circulation. So if your heart is not pumping properly, it will help the circulation throughout your body, which is what you need. It also strengthens the walls. So remember I explained how the arterial walls work and how all the problems start in the walls. So it strengthens those walls and makes it more pliable so that it doesn't become so rigid and stiff and narrows for that clog, that blockage to happen, which will then cause a stroke or a heart attack. Garlic is also a blood thinner and it's a vasodilator, and that just basically means that it opens and closes. Dilator means opens. So normally blood pressure problems come from, you know, the pressure of being closed because of all the stuff stuck in the walls. So it helps it to open more. Ginger is also a blood thinner and a vasodilator, so it also helps to open the walls of the arteries. Deep breathing also helps because more oxygen also helps the blood pressure to lower and to be distributed and circulated throughout the body. Exercise, very important because your blood is now flowing, and blood is important especially if you have, let's say you have a cut, right? Why does blood rush to your area? Because it sees a problem and now it tries to fix the problem. So you'll see it will start causing that white, sticky, gray type of thing. And that is your blood platelets and your white blood cells trying to fix the problem, right? Trying to get rid of all the germs and things that gets in the cut. So that healing can take place and it brings nutrients and oxygen to the area so that it can heal. So for anything in our bodies to heal, we need oxygen, we need nutrients, and that is, we get it through the blood. So blood is very important in the healing process of our body. So the more clean blood that we have circulated, the more oxygen, the more nutrients is circulating in the body, the more the body can function better. And then we obviously need a nutrient-rich diet. If you can't, at least try and do the Himalayan salt. And then date powder is also very good. Hibiscus tea, pomegranate tea, beetroot juice, carrot juice, celery and watermelon. Those are very good for heart conditions because they help the heart and the pumping of the blood and the vessels in different ways. They each have mechanisms that help it in a certain way, but those are the things that generally help with heart issues. So thank you for listening today. I hope that you learned a lot. I just want to explain how I use the Himalayan salt.
I just want to ask one question. So all about high blood pressure. You didn't even mention low blood pressure. How you use it here?
Okay, low blood pressure is a different
That's
thing.
more heavy than high blood.
It's more rare, and not many people suffer from low blood. You normally are born with low blood, and that has to do with how your internal structure works.
Not going through the veins.
Yeah.
So just ask me a respondent will ask your question. How do you handle it for low blood?
Okay, low blood you need to, that just basically means that you don't have enough iron in your blood so that it can absorb the oxygen. So now you're not getting enough oxygen into your blood, and that
Now need the oxygen.
yeah. So what you would do is
Sometimes stop.
yeah. So what? Okay, so
Get more weight.
no. So it basically just means that you need to eat eat things that have iron in it, like your beetroot, like raisins, stuff like liver, stuff like that. That is rich in iron. That is what you need. Licorice also. Licorice helps a lot. So you need to eat those things so that your blood can then hold on to the oxygen and then it will iron. Yeah.
Talking with the like,
You were so busy explaining the salt water to